Hi, this is Steve Neff at neffmusic.com, and I'm doing a video for you. I'm going to put it on YouTube and on my website. And I'm just going to be talking about what I've learned through the years from trying different mouthpieces and reviewing them. So, I actually just did this whole video on this subject, spent the last half hour recording it and talking and going through all the stuff and and then I went to play it and there was no sound. So now I have to do it all again. Um, so basically, if you've been to my site neffmusic.com, you'll very quickly see that I have hundreds of mouthpieces reviewed on there. I mean, since 2006 I started reviewing mouthpieces, and it started kind of as a hobby. Um, I had some mouthpieces I bought and was playing them. I couldn't decide which one I liked better and which one was, what they sounded like. So I decided to record them. I recorded me playing them, and then I think I posted it on Sax on the Web or something. And, I just asked for opinions. What do you guys like? What do you guys think? And so I got a big turnout of people that were like, "Oh, I like this one," or "I like that one," or "I like this one," and this is why. And it was kind of a cool experience. I got everyone else's input, and actually, it's kind of ironic, but the one everyone picked, I ended up not going with, so I picked a different one. Um, but out of that, I started reviewing mouthpieces on my site and putting them up, put pictures up, and put sound clips of them, so other people can kind of hear what the general vibe of the mouthpiece is as far as that is when I play it. And I think it's helpful because, everyone sounds different on a mouthpiece. Everyone has kind of a different oral chamber, and they play with a different embouchure, and they have different air support and all that. So that all goes into creating your sound and making your sound like you, not to mention the dimensions of everything in here and all that. Um, but I think it's helpful because I've been doing it for so many years that a lot of people, I think, kind of know my sound and know what I sound like in general, and have heard me play lots of different mouthpieces. So when I switch and all of a sudden the sound gets brighter, or the sound gets more edge on it, or the sound gets darker, or more responsive, or when they can hear the excitement and energy in my playing, maybe the clip sounds more, you know, alive and like, wow, Steve likes this mouthpiece because it's like really well. And then they can kind of get an idea, like, and then they read the review and kind of see what I think of it. And I think it can help, people kind of out of the hundreds of mouthpieces or thousands of mouthpieces out there, it maybe can kind of steer them in the right direction. Like, let me try this one. And that's why I've heard from people. I've heard from hundreds of people over the years that, wow, man, thanks for your site. You steered me to this mouthpiece and it's perfect. You steered me to this one and I love it, person after person. So I know it helps some people. But today I wanted to kind of talk about some of the things I've learned over the years about trying mouthpieces. And the first thing I've learned about trying mouthpieces is you have to be patient. Okay, and I'll tell you all the reasons why as we go through this. But you got to be patient. I've heard so many stories from people on the internet and even people here in my studio where they try a mouthpiece and immediately within one note they're like, I don't like it, or they play a scale and they say, I don't like it. It's not for me. This mouthpiece stinks. And they just, I'll have them try it right here and they'll give it back. I'm like, oh, don't you want to play it some more? No, I don't like it. Ugh, you know. And I've heard on the internet, people will order a mouthpiece, get it in the mail, and then post on Sax on the Web at 1:30 in the afternoon. This mouthpiece stinks. I hate it. It's for sale. Like anyone's gonna buy it. But then you ask some questions like, well, how long you been playing it for? I just played it for a few seconds. I just got it in the mail today. So, what time did you get it in the mail? Oh, around noon. How long did you play it for? I don't know, 10 minutes. That's the kind of things I hear from different people. That's their prerogative and that's what they want to do. But um, what I want to say is you have to be patient. And I have story after story where I've tried a mouthpiece, and at first I thought, oh, I hate this mouthpiece. This stinks. My first gut reaction. But there's so many variables you can play with. And I'll tell this story. Years ago, someone posted a mouthpiece for sale that was the best Florida link they've ever played. And this person sells hundreds of mouthpieces, thousands of mouthpieces. And the minute I read that, I thought, wow, the best Florida link they've ever played. And I know this guy, and I trust this guy's opinion. So I asked, oh, I'm interested. I'd like to buy it. It was expensive too. And he's like, well, why don't you try it? I know you, you know me. I'll send it to you. You try it. I think it's the best. I think it's amazing. So he sent it to me, and I played it. And my first thought, I played it, and I'm like, oh, I don't like it. It's tubby sounding. It's, it doesn't respond well. And I tried another reed. Oh, I don't like it. For half an hour, I tried different reeds. I was teaching at the time, and I had some students not show up, and I had a half hour. So I was trying it during that half hour. I still remember this. Couldn't get it going. I hated it. And I was kind of disheartened. I was like, man, I thought this mouthpiece was going to be amazing and like just blow me away. And it stinks. What was this guy talking about? So I was ready to send it back. I'm like, I'm just going to send it back. I don't want to, this is too much anxiety for me. And like, this is a lot of money. I don't want to keep messing with this thing. I should know by now if it's like for me. But, I thought, well, maybe let me just give it one more day. So the next day, I spent a couple hours with it. I wasn't teaching in that morning. So I spent a couple hours with it. And I went through a whole bunch of reeds. And that's one of the first tips that I have for you if you're trying new mouthpieces is to use new reeds. That half hour that I was at the place teaching, all I had on me was used reeds in a case that I'd used with whatever mouthpiece I had. When you use a reed with a mouthpiece, it shapes to that mouthpiece, and then it dries, and then you wet it, and it shapes to the mouthpiece, then it dries, and back and forth, and the reed's always changing. But many times a different mouthpiece has a different facing curve on it. So the reeds, I don't think the reed's used to bending to that new curve. The reed's probably warped, and shaped to the table of your old mouthpieces and the curve of your old mouthpiece. So I can't tell you how many times I've tried a used reed that sounds amazing on my mouthpiece, on a new mouthpiece, and it won't even play. I can't. It like sounds awful all the time. So at this point, I always use a new reed, and 10 times out of 10, I get a totally different response. Over here on my shelf, I have a shelf over here. I probably have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 11 different kinds of reeds. The brands, different sizes, different. They definitely are basically different brands and different sizes. So when I get a new mouthpiece, I'll try a new reed. I'll wet a 2.5 or a 3 or a 3.5, depending on the tip, and I'll put it on and play. Oh well, if it doesn't play well, then I'll think, is this reed too hard or too soft? If it's too soft, I'll go up a size. Okay, if it's too hard, obviously I'll go down a size. Sometimes I'll switch to a different brand. If I play a 2.5 and it's too soft, and I go to a 3 and it's too hard of that same brand, and then sometimes I try a bunch of reeds of that brand, 2.5s, 3s, 2.5s, 3. One's too hard, one's too soft. Then I'll switch to a different brand. And a lot of times when I switch to a different brand has a different cut, and some of them have more heart to the reed, and they just play a little bit different because they're cut different. A lot of times if I switch to a different brand, I'll find the reed that really sparkles and works great with that mouthpiece. So that's what I did with that Florida link. I went the next day and I played a bunch of my reeds and finally found one of a brand. Um, oh yeah, this sounds okay. This is playing now. Okay, yeah, this sounds pretty good. Um, so once I do that, once I get a reed that okay, it's in the ballpark, then it's a matter of how can I get the most out of this mouthpiece. So let me use this one. When I put a reed on a mouthpiece, I try to line it up with the tip of the mouthpiece. So if you're looking straight at the mouthpiece like this, you see a little bit of the tip of the mouthpiece over the reed, just the tiniest sliver. That's what I go for. Um, Now it's not a well. That's what I usually go for. So, um, but different mouthpieces play different with a reed being higher or lower. So, for instance, this reed, if I look straight at it, I don't see any of the mouthpiece. The reed I think it's exactly lined up with the mouthpiece, so that I don't see any of the mouthpiece. And the reason that is because I was messing with this reed earlier, playing with this mouthpiece, and I put it a little bit higher and I played it and I thought, oh, that plays a lot better. So some mouthpieces play with the reed a little bit higher, and what happens when you put it a little bit higher, it's allows more of this reed to vibrate. Okay, so for me, a lot of times it opens up the response. Sometimes with different mouthpieces or different reeds, it makes it too responsive and a little bit edgy. And you'll experience that if you really push it up and it goes way up high. It just sounds wacky and I don't know what the word is, just like slappy and blah blah blah, like too responsive and too I don't know too blatty or something. And then some mouthpieces like it when you put the reed a little bit lower. So I told you I like to see a little bit sliver of the mouthpiece. Sometimes I put it a little bit lower than that, just to see what that does. Now I had another read on this earlier, where it was lined up with this, actually a little bit higher, and when I played loud, it was too edgy, and it had like an edge to it that was a little harsh. So I moved the reed down a little bit, just a sliver, and then I tried it again, and the harshness was gone. It was like, oh, there we go. That's the right reed position. The other thing is, when you look at the mouthpiece like this, you have to make sure that the reed is lined up with the rails. Okay? So, I've seen so many people, including students in here, that put on a reed and just sort of like feel if it's like lined up and then put it on. And to me, I don't know, maybe I'm a perfectionist, but I want it in that perfect